I got you, babe. Do, 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 do. I got you, babe. So, yeah, it's cold out here. It's Groundhog Day. And welcome to Popmosis Film. I have with me my Josiah and my Tyler. And
I like you on the video that's actually being put on YouTube. You pointed to completely wrong direction.
Oh, did I really? I was trying to guess.
Josiah's below you, and then I'm to the right of you.
Is it like the Brady Bunch triangles? Like
because you're in the host position. You're in the host position.
That's the way they all became the Brady Bunch.
Oh, I'm in the host position. I don't know where that is. But yeah, so basically, welcome to Popmosis Film. This is Paul. And again,
this is Paul, who would totally have gotten fired from the Brady Bunch. But...
oh, absolutely. For some reasons, but yeah, we did Groundhog Day. And
do you want me to rewind that, Paul?
Yeah, can you rewind?
Wait,
that?
How many groundhogs are there, or is there more than one day?
There's two. Oh, maybe. But yeah, we did Groundhog Day with starring Bill Murray and directed by Harold Ramis. And before I go any further, hit it, Josiah.
Hey, you did some of what I do here, man. Oh, before I go any further, it's my thing. You're not allowed to say who made the film.
I know, I could go, I don't want to go too far.
Groundhog Day, made February 12th, released. They made it on the same day they released it. Amazing. Released February 12th, 1993. I couldn't find who directed it. No, I'm just kidding. I was just a joke because, since you said it, it was Harold Ramis.
It's Michael Bay, right? This is a Michael Bay vehicle.
This is his breakout film. Script by Harold Ramis and Danny Rubin, who also came up with the story. They actually won a BAFTA, the British Oscar, for their screenplay, which is cool. The best original screenplay.
For this movie?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And it was Danny Rubin hasn't done a whole lot outside of this. He's written some things, but nothing major until recently. I haven't seen it, but when I read his credits, it's something called Our Own Devices that came out in 2018, where it's like an Alexa and a Siri have conversations with each other. So I thought that seemed funny, having no idea about it. So and he has a few things in there, but there's a 10 plus year gap, and then you see the Alexa versus Siri thing. Starring Bill Murray as Phil, Andy McDowell as Rita, with a budget of $14 million, opened at $12 million, and made $71 million. So there you go.
Wow.
Nice, modestly budgeted film.
Really good for a comedy, especially at that time.
Yeah. And it is... So it was, Paul and I were talking before the podcast, the very beginning was filmed in Pittsburgh. When you see those shots, that's Pittsburgh, which is my home city. And
are you sure? I don't think you said this on the podcast before.
Actually, there's over here in the corner of my room, that's a steel cutout, a map of the city of Pittsburgh that Judy got me for our anniversary. So that proves that I'm from Pittsburgh. It's from Pittsburgh. It's made of steel.
It's seal of approval.
I'm not, and I'm just like a poser. I want to be from Pittsburgh so bad. Not just I love the teams or love the city. I'm I pretend to be from there. But Punxsutawney is 80 miles away from Pittsburgh, and so that makes it 70, 65-ish miles from where I grew up. Because I'm a little bit closer to I'm much closer to Pittsburgh, but slightly. I'm on the way to Punxsutawney when you'd see my parents' house. But unfortunately, it was not filmed in Punxsutawney. That was my most disappointing thing to learn when I was researching this movie. It's
do you think that they were just were not okay with it? They're we don't know what kind of tourism this will bring. Maybe you should just shoot somewhere else and just say you were here.
Maybe. The funny thing is, both Harold Ramis and Bill Murray have after the film was released, have gone to Punxsutawney to be the Grand Marshal or whatever when they lift up the thing.
Oh.
So they've done that since then. But they didn't film it there.
Wow.
They filmed it in Illinois, which is where Bill Murray's from.
Yeah.
But that is that's it for the specs on the film and who made it. The other people made it, but our key players, and we'll talk more about other important people and more about the movie. That's all I got for that part.
You know what we should do? We should probably restart this whole thing.
I got you, babe.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
I got you, babe.
At least for the first go around, we have to repeat everything exactly how we did it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But yet, like, one of us has to not be aware. I don't know who gets to be that person. I guess it's Paul as the
Maybe
host.
me, because I'm usually
Yeah.
not aware like of things. But yeah, I mean, basically, what you guys? I think the funny thing about this movie is like I think it's so rock solid that it's kind of been applied to different genres. Like you have Edge of Tomorrow, you have Source Code, you have Happy Death Day, which is horror, and so it's funny how like this movie is so perfect that you can kind of take the framework and apply it to other different films and make a good film. And so yeah, I just wanted to. What were your first initial impressions watching this movie again? What you think? Has it changed at all? Or
I watch this movie, I think, every year. I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. I will say, as much as I love this movie, I actually think I like Edge of Tomorrow more. I think every time I watch Edge of Tomorrow, I just get pumped. I think it's just because of like the action. I think because Edge of Tomorrow is like so many different genres smashed into one movie. Like it's an action movie, it's a comedy movie as well. It's like really there's like a lot of thrillness into it. Like there's a lot to it. But anyways, but that's not Groundhog Day. That's not what brought us here today. I love this movie. I think that the comedy is fantastic. I think a lot of the jokes have carried over to really establish what I find is funny. Like I just think nothing is funnier in the world than Ned or like Ned Ryerson and then just punch like
I know Bing.
Like there are so many little things here and there about this movie that have established, I guess, like my sense of humor. Like what's like I don't know, like it's one of the few romance movies that I love so much, even though it's absolutely not realistic whatsoever. It's but I don't know. I find everything about this movie just like really charming, really fun, but most importantly, like really funny, and then also like really dark as well when he drives off a cliff with a with the groundhog.
Yeah, like a whole extended sequence of like how he can kill, how many ways he kills himself. Pretty dark, especially like we all grew up with this movie, and I think like that's a sequence as kids. That's part of what we're watching over and over and over again. That's this movie.
Yeah, it's the montage I've always wanted to see Hulk do, but Marvel's too afraid to do it.
He was a really, really great guy. I really, really liked him.
Yeah, it's so funny because like the part where it has him and the groundhog on the steering wheel, and he's like, "Don't drive angry." Like that's what kind of sold me on the movie when I was like, "Oh, the groundhog is so cute!" Like I totally want to see this movie, and I was like so excited. But yeah, how about you, Josiah? How was
and then the scene kept going. You're like, "Oh no!"
And even the way that scene ends though is so perfect too, because they go over the cliff and it smashes. This is horrible, and Chris Elliott to Andy McDowell's like, "Oh, I'm sure he's okay," and then the explosion, so perfect, like so cartoonish, but yet it works in this movie. And so for me, just thinking about the movie, like I said, it's a movie I grew up with, and I've always liked it. It's one of those movies that it feels like it's been around forever in my life, and it's kind of funny to think, oh, it's only came out in '93. Like it feels like it should have been, for me, I would have been 11, but I feel like I've known it longer than that, if that makes sense, because I've seen it so many times. Like Tyler said, watch it every year, and it's cool to have a movie for an underrepresented holiday like Groundhog Day. And I'm from Pennsylvania, as we've established, and it's not. I don't want to say it's like a big deal, but it is kind of a big deal because, like I said,
I would absolutely imagine it. So, to be honest, this is the most like Philly movie, or
no, not Philly.
Not
this
Philly.
Is Western Pennsylvania. This is Western Pennsylvania.
This is the most. I feel like this is like I know we've done Dawn of the Dead and stuff, but I feel like this is like the established like Philadelphia or Pennsylvania movie, just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Unfortunately, is like the Texas movie. I would much rather have Groundhog Day than Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where I'm from. But hey,
and it really is, though. You're really right. It has that feel, even though, like we said, it wasn't filmed there. It feels like Pennsylvania, and where they shot looks. And I've never been to Punxsutawney itself, but where they shot looks like every little place, like small town where I grew up. Like I'm from a little town called Russellton, and mine's a bit more rural, but it feels the same. The way that people interact when like those people in that town, it feels like the people that live in that small town. And so, but when I grew up, it wasn't like a huge deal that the groundhog thing, but you were aware of it every year on Groundhog's Day, and it was on the Pittsburgh News every year as it showed when Phil went. That's a fake news station.
Yeah.
Though. That's not a real Pittsburgh channel though.
Well,
And
that just ruined this movie.
yeah, the reality is gone. But watching it now, I kept thinking it's so cool because now I'm thinking like as an adult, I'm like, what genre is this? It's comedy, obviously, but it's kind of like this sort of fantasy because of the premise, and it's a romance, as you said. So it's like more things than I kind of remembered it being because I was just caught up in the comedy of it and enjoying the weird journey that the character of Phil goes on. So, but it's a movie that I've loved forever. So
there's a thing that like constantly like on Reddit and Facebook as well, like where people are just like, are all time travel movies sci-fi? So would this be considered sci-fi? But there's not really
there's
any
nothing sci-fi about it.
Yeah, it is very fantastical as to why he goes
and
back.
like they don't even bother to. I love that they don't. I read one in the research that the original script had them in the loop the whole time, like, or he was already in his Groundhog Day loop, and that was like the only thing that Harold Ramis of significance changed was setting up things beforehand, like that.
Yeah,
before they went there, and I think that that helps for the movie.
Oh yeah,
with character and things like that. So you're not just
that romance. I feel like if we had no context but prior, it would have been a lot more creepier. Like he was kind of grooming her.
Yeah, kind of like what he did with the other women.
Yeah,
I mean, you kind of need to see how he was before he entered the loop. Like he was kind of a miserable person that like only really cared about himself and wanted to be, a national anchor, and. Like you had to see that, like how he was in the beginning to kind of get that full character arc of his like redemption, like how he became a person that cares for others.
I love his meltdown, like when they're trying to leave and he's like just yelling at the people, and he's just and he's like, "Is it snowing in space?" Like I love those moments because he's whenever Bill Murray is mad, it's like it's cute, like a pouty puppy, like.
And that's the thing, like Bill Murray plays like a lovable asshole. Like he's the only one that could do that well, like the lovable asshole. And like what I really like about the first day is that as they're going to Punxsutawney and they're about to film, it kind of sets the stage of what you're expecting that first day to be like. But also, what's interesting is at the very beginning, she's like a new producer and she's all optimistic and peppy and like doing impressions of the groundhog. And then by the end of that day, she's so like she's so over Phil Connors. She's like, they're about to go get a drink, and he's like, yeah, whatever. And she like just kind of blows him off. And so you kind of see how like how the way Phil is, it really starts wearing down the optimism of Rita, So I really like that first, how important it is. It shows how like just how the way Phil as a person just like really wears on the people around him just because of the way his personality is. Like he's very selfish and sarcastic and kind of
Stark.
Yes, he's a bit asshole. He's basically just an asshole, but without the lovable part of it.
Yeah.
And also it establishes that beginning real quick while we're there. It also, one thing I noticed this viewing was he says, I don't know, I've gone the last 3 or 4 years. So he's already in this loop of life. His life is the loop already. So that it becomes the day individually, but his life is in the loop where he's just doing the same thing every year, going to Punxsutawney, reporting. So his life is already there. And I think it helped to establish that sort of a little bit more subtly, because I honestly didn't notice it until I was viewing that like specific line where he's like, so much so that he just does it that he doesn't even know how many years he's done it.
I didn't even think about that at all.
So
that's interesting. Yeah, and he's like so like, oh, the third year again, like doing this.
It's so it's so weird. I didn't even think about that at all. That's
Basically, what I think is really great about this movie is that, and I didn't realize this until watching it this time, is that this whole movie is structured with the five stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. and it starts off with the diner like, oh my god, is the day looping? Like and then he gets mad and he like punches Ned Ryerson, and then there's bargaining where he's like deciding whether he should do with like the groundhog, and then there's depression where he's that series of suicide attempts where he's like jumping off the clock tower. He drives with Phil. He drives the groundhog, into the ravine, and so he like constantly commits suicide, and like that's the depression, and that's after like he gets rejected by Rita when he like tries to memorize every single detail of her, and then still gets rejected every time he gets slapped. There's like montage of him getting slapped constantly, and then acceptance is when he was telling about like he's going through this time loop, and she willingly spends a day with him, and they're like laying in bed, and his first act of kindness is to put the blanket over her because she's cold, and then he starts actually reading her, saying some poetry to her as she's sleeping, and he's telling her how he feels about her, and that's the first moment where he's he shows some kindness, like he shows he cares about another person, because the whole time before that he had like this facade of like that he like he only cares about himself, and but this is the first time where he actually shows he cares, and after that moment he starts changing a tune. He starts becoming
his heart.
You see the turning point.
Five sizes that day.
Yeah, exactly. He like stops becoming the Grinch, and like he becomes like
different holiday. Different holiday.
Cares about other people. And so I thought that was interesting. Like I can see how like it's kind of like the movie structured with the 5 stages of grief.
I never ever put that together. Like that's awesome. No, that's very deep. I just think he's an asshole, and he's not an asshole anymore. That's like
But I totally appreciate that subtext. That because it's
really effective now.
Exactly, and the thing is, like, that's the thing about this movie. Like, you could it's so simple, and it's in the way it plays out. But you can really, if you want to, you could really kind of analyze it and dig deep. And like, I know philosophers. Like, I was actually putting a joke about like, we don't want to make this episode too long, and I'm like, well, I could go into the existentialism and nihilism and all this other stuff, all the philosophy behind it.
Break out your thesaurus, everybody.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I know. Good thing we're not playing Scrabble right now.
I know. But yeah, what do you guys think about that? You think I'm full of shit, or do you agree, or what do you think?
No, I don't think that. I think that what you're saying is absolutely probably what they intended and what the movie is about, and I am not smart enough as an audience member to pick up on it when I just think, Bill Murray is an asshole, but yet he's not, and that's all I catch is like more. I don't think it's weird with a lot of comedy movies. I don't really think about them too deeply unless depending on who the director is. But no, it's very interesting. I think it's kind of like the same thing with Scrooged. The other movie that we talked about with Bill Murray, where it's just kind of like I don't really think too much into it, where I just kind of it's all about the performances for me with these movies, because a lot of the times when I see Bill Murray, I think Groundhog Day, Stripes, and Caddyshack, and so I don't really think anything much into Caddyshack and Stripes, and I guess that's unfair for him as an actor, and I shouldn't think that way when I see him in a movie. But at least I don't think of Garfield, so that's a good thing. That's how I feel.
And the thing is, like with Bill Murray, like he's the only one that could do this. Like he's the only one that could pull off this arc and pull off both Phil Connors and I forgot his name in Scrooge, but
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Ebenezer Scrooge. Yeah, he's the only one
too
that could carry out, like, could actually do this. Because I think if anybody else did it, they would come off like too unlikable to where you don't care about the arc, like where I mean, like he just has that.
It's
perfect
Frank.
balance.
Frank something. Frank.
Oh yeah,
right? Frank.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right.
It just popped into my head.
Thank you.
It's been over a month. I won't remember his name.
I don't remember his name until next December again.
Yeah, right.
Right. So how about you, Josiah? What do you think about
Yeah, that sounds great. I think that's very wonderful.
A+.
Okay, I was assuming you're
You
like,
get a
actually,
check
that's-
mark.
I know.
I'll hit the like button on that.
One gold star for Paul.
You get half a smiley face sticker, Paul, because your assignment was late. No, I don't know.
You slept very well during nap time. We're very proud of you.
I didn't see it in the specifics of the stages of grief necessarily, but I saw the arc of the character because I'm the writer guy, so I always think in terms of story. And essentially, what you want is with your protagonist, they go through some kind of change, and when you're approaching a story, a lot of the time you'll think, okay, there's a point where it's like, okay, they think a certain way and they're like kind of essentially there's this upward movement and then it's, like then down and then back up. Like but when you use that, that's a great way to process that story. And I really can see it. I'd like to watch it again with that specific intention in mind to follow through with how it fits. But I certainly saw aspects of it. I don't know that the only part that I kind of wonder if it's maybe it's just the wording of like at the end, it's not acceptance. That's where he's changed. And then I guess maybe acceptance does work. He's changed and he's going to do the best with what he has now, whatever. And it's almost as if maybe the acceptance is if he stays in that loop, this is going to be the best day ever for everyone else around him.
Yeah.
And it's not about him anymore. That's the acceptance.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's what I kind of was thinking with acceptance is that he's making the best of his circumstances, and so instead of being a guy that steals money from the bank or whatever it is, or punching Ned Ryerson, he's the guy that's gonna improve everybody's life around him, and so that's what I thought was for me acceptance, like exactly what you said. But what were you saying, Tyler?
Nothing. I was gonna make a really stupid joke, and it's not. It's
No,
not
go
worth
ahead.
saying.
Go ahead.
No, it's the moment has passed.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe. That's our reset. And if we ever want to redo anything,
Yeah, right.
Okay. I got you, babe. But yeah, what I really appreciate about this movie is that every single person in the movie is a character in itself, and the way you see Bill Murray's or Phil's arc is that. Is how he interacts with them. And, you begin the movie with him, like, being totally disregarding all of them. Like, he's like, oh, these people are beneath me. They live in a small town. Fuck them. And then he has that date with that one woman. He, like, memorizes everything. And she's like, oh, I went to the same high school you did and all that stuff. And he, totally kind of exploiting her in a way.
in a way. This is just totally exploiting her.
Yeah.
Not in a way.
Total grooming.
And so, but he starts to really get to know each of the people. My favorite sequence is when there's a little old ladies and they're driving in their Cadillac or whatever, and they get a flat tire, and all of a sudden they're like, "What is that?" They're like raising up,
Yeah,
and he's like fixing the flat tire, and he's like, "Oh, I really have good membership at AAA." Oh, I just love that sequence. So, so in your opinion, what is your favorite kind of character interaction? With Phil and one of the townsfolk of Punxsutawney.
Mine's the one when he, when General Zod got engaged and he was there.
yes.
No,
He was so young.
Oh, that's so funny. I was gonna actually have
Henry
that.
Cavill flies in and breaks his neck and steals his bride.
Yeah,
That's
right.
how it
Yeah.
ends. That's how Groundhog Day should have ended.
I wonder before he met his bride, he's like, "I will find her." Like,
And what was with that fish man that came in for no reason? Just kidding. No. I love the old lady one. I don't know. I like them all. Like I think.
you want me to go back to you?
Wait. Can I say that I think my favorite arc is actually with him and his brother, like real life brother, who plays the mayor.
Brian Doyle Murray.
Yeah. I don't know. I like that. I like. I don't know. I thought it was kind of like nice and sweet, and then also like the fact that they're brothers too in real life. It was just kind of like, oh, cool. I like that arc. I don't know.
I think I like generally what I like about the characters. If you watch it, the beginning's very sitcom-y and they're very caricature-y. and over the top and ridiculous. But then as you get to know them, they're very real people underneath that. And that's and I say it's sitcom and cartoony, but at the same time, that's a lot of time how people are. They like that Ned Ryerson. He puts on this facade because of his own insecurities and all these things, and he doesn't really know how to interact with people. So he's just trying so unbelievably hard that you hate him. But if you can get past that, there's a real person that, you know, his mom cares about, I'm sure, that kind of thing, and that you should be able to care about. So for me, though, the interaction that I liked the most was the guys that he sees at the diner. It's like when I think like it's the start of like figuring it. It might be early in the movie. I can't remember exactly where it happens, but they go to the bowling alley and they're drinking, and he's like talking to them about being in the loop, and the one, he explains it, and he's like, you ever feel like you're living the same day over and over again? And the one guy goes, that about sums it up for me. And it's just like so hilarious but sad and perfect. That was for me like the best one. Just I like that scene overall.
The perfect response from somebody from a small town.
Yeah, and that guy, I don't think and I think, you know, it's that perfect kind of writing, directing, where I don't think that character spoke the whole scene. It's the other guy who's kind of like the loudmouth character, who I can't think of his name as an actor, but he's in a lot of, like, he's always like a small part in all these Bill Murray type movies. And he is talking most of the time, and they're listening to what Phil has to say. And then at the end, the punchline of the scene is that guy's line. That was my favorite. So,
yeah.
Nice. So yeah, no, I just like how each person kind of reflects a part of his personality. Like like interacting with them, shows a part of Phil's personality. So I just think that's really neat. How I don't know, this movie is just brilliant in a way that it just and I would say that in many ways it's timeless, you know, because it just you know, every time you watch it, you kind of see it on a different level. And it's funny, I've seen this movie probably a couple dozen times, but I actually enjoyed it the most watching it today, watching it again.
Hey man, you touched me. Thanks, Larry.
There's actually debate that how long he's stuck in this time loop. Like what? There's debate that it's either 8 years, 12 years. Some say even like 100. So what do you think? Where, you know, like how long do you think he's stuck in this time loop? And not only that, but if you were stuck in a time loop, like what is the thing that you would do that maybe that he didn't do in the movie?
Well, I think we have a lot more opportunity in being in like Southern California. So there's a lot.
Well, I mean,
hey, there's not a lot of opportunity in Western Pennsylvania.
No.
Not for one day.
And I'm the person who moved from Western Pennsylvania, where I currently live in Southern California, where I'm recording this from.
You would have to be exactly in those circumstances, like your same town, you're in Punxsutawney, you know, you're exactly in the same time period, everything.
I'm just okay. I feel like a major tell on how long he was there, or he repeated, goes with how long does it take to master piano? Because I'm assuming that I would say all of them, but except for all the days he kills himself and all the terrible stuff. So that's gonna be around, I would say 30 to 40 to 50 days, because you can easily learn people's stuff one by one because throughout the day, because it's a day. So I would say like that's maybe around 30. I would say that like that's around 30, and then from the piano on, I mean that's mastering the piano. That's
days that are shown in the actual movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's a lot of other days that are not actually shown.
Yeah, I'm sure he tried to kill himself other ways too. But like, I would say probably around 150 to 200, because he gets like crazy for a little bit, and then like,
200 years or days?
Times. Yeah, I would say 200. I would say 150. I mean, again, he has to like learn piano, and that's for an hour a day. That's usually how long piano lessons are, and he didn't know how to do anything at first, and then he was doing some really, really specific techniques during it, and so that comes from a lot of training. So I would say 150 to 200. No, I would say 250 to 300 times, honestly.
And what would you do? What would your if you were in this scenario? What would your
Try to be best friends with Jason Mantzoukas. Not gonna lie, I want to be friends with Jason Mantzoukas so badly. I just want to just grab a drink with him and that's it, and just say you're awesome and you're my friend, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's the saddest thing I've ever said.
No, that's not sad. You want to be a friend with a particular person. That's not sad. Well, a little bit, but
He just seems so cool and so funny. Like, yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Josiah?
So the first question, I think, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't care about that part. I never care about that function of it. Like, because although I do appreciate and like Tyler's thought about the piano part in terms of understanding how long it would be, because like, oh yeah, you're coming from nothing to mastering piano and playing anything he wants to play. That's probably telling with the time. Malcolm Gladwell probably wrote a book about that. What was that book he wrote? Outliers, where it's like the 10,000 hours to master something kind of thing, or whatever it is. So you can throw that calculation on there, because I remember as a kid watching it once, and I did try to count the number of loops. I have no idea how successful I was, but I do remember trying to do that once when I watched it. But I feel like, kind of I talked a little bit earlier, I don't care about that sort of window dressing if I'm so immersed and believe the world. Like in a sci-fi movie or something, I don't need to know all the goings of it. Like a lot of, like, when you look at Star Wars, when you have world building, and this film also has world building in its own way, that I believe the rules and all those things, so I'm not questioning them, so I'm not concerned with how long it is. I am concerned with how that length clearly affects the way he behaves and how it wears on him and those things. So I guess it does matter, but I'm not really interested in the actual time. But I don't mind hearing like other people sort of pontificate.
I only question it because I used to play piano, and I was just like,
no, and I appreciate that because I never have, and I'm like, oh, that's a good way to look at it. Like if I've never played piano, and how would I?
Even like learning how to ice sculpture, like how long does that take to master that?
Exactly.
Oh my god, I forgot about the ice sculpture.
Yeah, how long does it take to like learn?
Too that he didn't learn that.
Okay, now I'm thinking 1,000. I'm thinking like 1,000 days. Honestly, like ice sculpting. Jesus, like
To learn every detail of every person and like to figure out.
Like I said, I think he can do that, take notes and stuff like that, and like I think he could. I think he could learn the people, relatively, okay. Because again, that's just repeating. Where he just like it's like, oh yeah, your brother Phil. And they're like, you mean my brother John? And it's like, oh shit, next day, and then like.
So Josiah, what would you do if you were in that scenario? How would you react?
I don't know. I would try to be a good person so that I could get on to the next day.
Yeah.
I would try to stop being a jerk and learn how to be selfless, and that would be what resets the time clock.
What if your loop was all about you being too good of a person, and now you have to be a scumbag?
Yeah,
it'd be like GTA, like like Grand Theft Auto over here, like. Assuming I'm a jerk like him, I guess I think one thing that I would be interested in. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea where I would go with that, because like I'm not him. I'm so not him. Like I'm not like the best guy in the world, but I'm not him.
I would do things I would be normally afraid of, like skydiving and stuff like that. Like things I would never do anyway, but under very fantastical circumstances, yes, I will do those things.
Maybe learn piano. Kind of want to learn piano now.
Right? Yeah, master my piano skills again.
Yeah, I just think it'd be fun to kind of play around with the boundaries of what's going on in that situation. So kind of probably do similar things to what he's doing, where kind of fucking with people, like playing pranks on people, and then maybe there's some kind of redemption at the end. Maybe not. Maybe I would just prefer being in that time loop instead of like.
Oh God, I would go. Oh God, I would go crazy. Oh,
I would leave Punxsutawney.
Yeah.
And I know they were snowed in. I know they were snowed in, but I guarantee you you could get back to Pittsburgh without going on without going on the freeway. There's other roads. There's smaller back roads. Yeah. Get yourself something with 4-wheel drive, something like with chains. You're gonna get out of there. Yeah.
Go through some closet doors and go to Monsters Inc. land. I know what you're saying.
Monsters Inc. Land?
I don't know. Monster
But you,
Topia.
Monstropolis.
Monstropolis. That's what it was. Okay, I couldn't remember for the life of me. Man.
So one character that really stands out is Stephen Tobolowsky, who plays Ned Ryerson. How would you react to somebody like Ned Ryerson?
You mean me?
Yeah. Would you punch him out? Would you like buy an insurance policy from him? Like, what was your reaction to him?
I probably would just pity him and talk to him, and then like I don't know. I mean, again, if I'm on a loop, it doesn't matter what I do. But like I'm saying, like if I just met him on the street, I mean, one thing I have met Stephen Tobolowsky. Oh my God, Tobolowsky.
Tobolowsky.
Whatever.
No, it's Guillermo.
Guillermo del Toro. No, I met him at an IKEA, and he was really cool.
Oh wow.
But,
okay.
Yeah, in Burbank. No, I don't know. I mean,
I've been to that IKEA. I didn't meet anybody cool. I met like the people in those yellow shirts.
I
Yeah,
think this was like his big break, right? Because after this, he got a whole bunch of parts from this movie.
I think he just did a lot of extra work and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think he's great.
Yeah.
I think it's
But this is what kind of like broke his career.
yeah,
He basically then played Ned Ryerson forever and ever. He's in his own Groundhog Day loop, playing the same character in.
And he's in the Groundhog Day, like he's in that commercial too. So, but I don't know. He's played some other characters. Like I love his character in Silicon Valley so much. He's just such a fucking asshole. Oh, he's a perfect asshole. It's amazing. I don't know if you guys watch Silicon Valley, but man.
Oh yeah, no, it's a good show.
Yeah, but I wouldn't get insurance from him, but I mean I would talk to him. You know, I mean I'm annoying like him, so I would hope that people have a little bit more patience with him.
No, I feel like I had to bring him up at some point because he's like such a prominent, like he's so prominent as a.
I feel like he is the thing that everybody remembers the most from this film.
Yeah, like his interaction's like the one that kind of stands out. So I feel like I have to
Phil?
kind of bring him up.
Phil,
Ned?
As much as I love this movie, and as much as I feel like it's a timeless classic, one thing that really does stand out is that this is actually the last collaboration with Bill Murray and Harold Ramis.
Yeah.
And there was actually a few that started from this movie, in where Bill Murray, he was going through a divorce, and he was, very anxiety ridden. He was very hard to deal with, kind of mean spirited on the set. And Harold Ramis, like they kind of clashed a lot of times as far as the tone of this movie. And then, Bill Murray thought that Harold Ramis was taking credit for his career, Bill Murray's career, and they actually didn't speak for like 20 years. And so, so I don't know. I find that sad that like we have this timeless movie that we kind of is like comforting. Every time I watch this movie, I feel a little bit better. And it's sad that this friendship dissolved because of this.
Well, it's weird because it seems like a lot of directors and Bill Murray clash. Like I feel like he's the Edward Norton of like the 80s and 90s. Like,
and I think at that time that was probably definitely true. I think that he was, and I think the interesting thing I think in particular this movie is he pushed in a way that pushed things creatively, at least in this film, and I think it resulted in the best on screen. It's so unfortunate because like they're falling out. They didn't speak until Harold Ramis was like dying, and they did reconcile, but that was it. Yeah, they at the very end of his life. I saw an interview with Harold Ramis's daughter and said that Bill then came out and was just like devastated. That I think she realized, like, you're talking about a movie where you're in this time loop, and what they lost was all that time. That time was just gone. And so I think he, at the end he got it. And I also assume as a person and as a professional that Bill Murray learned how to better
conduct himself.
Yeah. And learn how to do the pushback, just like Phil learned how throughout the course of this movie. It's really unfortunate that that's the real life story that's behind this film. But it's kind of interesting though, as Paul said, yet it's still a movie that when I watch it, I just say you feel lifted up because you see someone become a better person. and that's a really cool thing.
That's interesting. I knew they had a feud, and that was kind of the main reason why Ghostbusters 3 kind of never took off, because Bill Murray didn't want to work with Harold Ramis. I think that was part of the reason why Ghostbusters 3 didn't really get anywhere. But I didn't know.
I always took it that he was just tired of Ghostbusters. I felt like that was like I think I don't know. Like with me, how it always seemed, and from like what other actors said, it was more like he was taking Ghostbusters like Harrison Ford was taking Star Wars, where they were just kind of like, can you just please just stop? Like, just kill me.
I feel like my take is it's a bit of both. That's the way I just see it, because I don't see how you could have that with someone that you're then, let's make a movie together. No matter how you feel about that property, that material, like, oh, we have to work together. And I haven't spoken to you at that point in 10 years and then in counting. So if you go through the 5 stages of grief, this is the depression part of this podcast.
Yeah, right. There you go. Well, we're arcing.
We're getting there. Just hang with
We're
us.
getting
everybody.
to acceptance. But yeah, wouldn't that be great if we did structure it actually that way? But anyway, that's
5 stages of
yeah. Every episode is structured that same way.
Oh my god!
No matter what.
There's this
The
whole arc.
So this episode we're talking about Care Bears the movie, and let's just dive into the depression.
There's Lionheart, the depressing Care Bear. Not even a bear. So yeah, I just had to bring that, because I didn't even know that that's where the feud started, was with this movie, and so I was doing some research on it. And I was like, holy shit! It's weird that it started with this movie, because this movie is so like overwhelmingly positive, and like how it, like you basically take this whole kind of like like this really selfish person that's kind of just loves himself too much and feels that he deserves everything in life and like treats everybody like shit, and he becomes this like almost like an inspirational person, like and he really cares for others. And the part that really gets me is every time I see this is when he's helping out the homeless man, the old homeless guy, and it starts off with him giving him money, and then he buys him soup, and then he finds out he passed away, and the nurse goes up to him and says, it was just your time. And or that it was just his time,
and he just keeps trying to save him.
He keeps trying to save him, and I think that really helped with the development of his character, like from being this kind of a horrible person to being like, this really lovable person that ended the movie. And I just like that's what I love about this movie. It's just like it's so many. It strikes a chord. It's like never. Like age has not dulled its impact at all. It's like timeless. It's a timeless classic. And when you see Rita and Phil kiss and the snow's falling, you realize that the time loop has ended. And then she wakes up beside him, and he's just happy to be out. He like looks out the window, sees that it's a new day, and he really enjoys that. Like this like second chance at life.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you think about Phil's arc? And
There's a question.
I know.
Oh yeah. I'm just pointing that.
You're gonna tear up here, buddy. No, I mean, I think it's like what we said before. I think he is a strong character. I think he's a great character. It's inspiring, and yet it's hilarious, and yet like also not relatable at all, because I feel like I am nothing like what Phil was like. But I mean, I think it's inspiring that anybody can change and stuff, and it only takes effort. But I mean, yeah, A+.
I think of it this way: it's like you have to make the choice to change. It's not something that you can be insincere about and memorize all the details of somebody and like manufacture that love. It's like you have to be a sincere person, and want to change sincerely, and to do it for yourself and not just for somebody else, or like to impress somebody else. And so I just there's so much, like, again, I love this movie so much because there's so much going on. There's so much subtext. There's like, and you can interpret it so many different ways. And so it's really just a heartfelt and well done movie. and I just like it gets me every time. So from here, before we close out,
Josiah didn't answer your question.
I don't know what the question is.
How do you feel about Phil's arc?
Oh, I hate it. I hate that he became a good person. What a cheap ending to a movie.
Yeah, what a sack of shit.
It's beautiful. It's what movies are made for, man. And this is why cinema exists, because you can, in life, you don't get happy endings all the time. In fact, you don't get them most of the time, but movies, you can have them. Not every movie deserves or needs a happy ending.
Like Requiem for a Dream. It's the
Exactly.
it's the happiest ending I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. The first time I watched that, oh my Lord.
Oh,
but
I was 14. I was scarred.
I wasn't a whole lot older, but I was still too young. I could have been 27 and I was too young. But this is why this is like, this movie reminds me, there's a lot of times where they use like, I know, like, sort of our generation, we're obsessed with the 80s and 90s, right? And so if things are like sort of about coming of age or growing, that it's about that era, like Stranger Things or things like that. That's the era that we examine now, our generation. I even know I'm working on a novel that's literally set in the 90s, so I'm right there. And this movie,
I hate movies based in the 90s usually and 80s.
You'll hate this book. But anyway.
Oh no.
You won't even, the time period, you won't even care because you'll be so engrossed in the story and the characters. I promise. But anyway, this story, it's this, the, you know, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, their generation was the same with like the 1950s. So the 80s and 90s movies in particular, everything, like the nostalgia was for, you know, whatever time was past 30 years before that. That's, you know, 30 years ago, the 80s. That's kind of how it is now. So and that's just the way it goes. And there's the you know, the use of like the different songs and stuff that are throwback to like the 60s, like the, you know, the I Got You Babe, the Sonny and Cher. And those things are a throwback in a way that made me think of cinema of a different era that was much more embracing the fantasy before, like the 70s cinema in particular really got to that gritty, the realism. Like you had that transition in the late 60s and 70s where movies became much more almost real. And this is one of those movies that harkens back to that other style where you have that like nostalgia and romance, and it can have a happy ending and it works. Like one movie that I like think is a modern example a few years back is the Silver Linings Playbook. It was one of the movies I didn't think I would love, but I loved it so much. And it's a modern movie that's basically like a 1950s or 40s style movie today, with the trappings of a movie today, but the heart of it and the way it is, and it has the happy ending and all this stuff, even though it deals with like other heavier issues. But it has, in this movie, is that kind of thing. It's a throwback to another time where you can have a happy ending, where, you know, in the 1940s, all movies had a happy ending that felt like, or at least the ones that I've seen for the most part, or something. And that's this movie. So did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think you're very much on point with that, because when the snow falls and the time loop is broken, that's kind of harkening back to It's a Wonderful Life. When the snow falls, that's when he realizes he's back in his hometown of Bedford Falls, and then he like runs out and's like, "Oh, Emporium," you know, like he.
No, and that's a great great parallel movie that I hadn't thought about. If you like look at the character arc, it's in a different way, but it's a similar thing where it's learning the value of in a Wonderful Life. It's learning the value of himself to others. And in this movie, it's essentially the same thing, learning the value of himself to others, but in the sense that, oh, I need to start giving, whereas his is, I need to stay here to keep giving. But that's a very great parallel movie.
I like this movie way more than Scrooged. I think that this is definitely Bill Murray's, I would say, probably his best performance. Yeah, we discussed it back in Scrooged, how Bill Murray kind of like phoned it in a little bit, and it's kind of like where it's very apparent that he didn't care what he was making. Where this one, I feel like it was very consistent. His performance was fantastic. I think Harold Ramis also just did a great job directing it. I don't know, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's iconic. Yeah, Ned Ryerson and everything it's just a fun, good, feel good movie. It honestly ages pretty well, like, minus the one thing of, kind of like grooming that woman. That's not really the greatest thing, but like everything else, like it's a movie that I would love to show other people if they hadn't seen it, and I still enjoy watching it every single year. So that's my final thought. I love this movie. Bill Murray knocked it out of the park. Harold Ramis, I miss you in your movies, and yeah.
All right. How about you, Josiah?
Yeah, I love this movie. It's a great film. It just is. It's kind of what I talked about, that old Hollywood thing that sort of harkens back to a different time. It does it in a way that's also contemporary, and like Tyler said, it feels timeless. And that's when a film can do that, that's a very unique and special category.
Yeah.
And like, again, in watching it yesterday, was really the first time I ever really paid attention. Like you said, the grooming the woman, like, oh, that's the one thing in there that doesn't hold up, but
which is not bad for a 90s movie, because
No,
usually
exactly.
usually a 90s movie is a laundry list of shit that you're just like,
yeah,
okay.
it wasn't. And it was funny because like I don't know that I just overlooked it or what it was, but that stood out to me as the one glaring thing that kind of hurts the movie in any way. Because other than that, like it's nearly perfect. Bill Murray as honestly probably yes, his best performance. Like for me, I also I'm a big fan of him in Lost in Translation, so it's one of
That's
those two
right.
roles.
I almost
But
watched that yesterday too. I'm not gonna lie.
But I feel like Lost in Translation is so great in part because it's informed by who Bill Murray really is, and and even this role informs that film because the character he plays in that. But it's an all-time great film, and it's the kind of film that belongs in a time capsule. It belongs on a list of the best films. It's up there with a great, like any great comedy, and also a great holiday movie that you forget is a holiday movie because it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Happy Groundhog Day, everybody.
Happy Groundhog Day.
Happy Groundhog Day. Yeah, I concur with both of my hosts. It's a timeless classic. It's just a great movie, and I'm glad we picked it. So yeah, I think it's I really enjoyed talking about it, and I think it is up there with one of Bill Murray's best. I don't know. Yeah, like it's interesting to bring Lost in Translation because that's a personal favorite of mine as well. I love that movie so much, and like I really love how, like I feel like the in Lost in Translation, like Tokyo is kind of a character in itself, where in this movie, like Punxsutawney is kind of a character in itself, and it's brought out with the characters, like all the townsfolk, and so I just so I don't know if anybody that listens to us hasn't seen this movie yet, but I highly recommend it. It'll definitely cheer you up. It's one of those few movies that
It's a feel
if
good
you watch
movie,
it, it'll cheer you up. Exactly. It'll make your day. You know,
like Requiem for a Dream.
Oh God!
Watch them back to
you.
back. Start with Requiem
Yeah.
for a Dream.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a story about that. Actually,
The only thing worse, the only thing harder to watch than the Requiem for a Dream is the book is harder to read.
Oh wow! I didn't even
It's
know
pretty
there
much
was a book.
Hubert Selby Jr. He's one of my favorite writers. It's a brilliant
wow.
book, but it's like it's the movie, the same plot. So
Jesus
yeah,
Christ!
but
thank you for joining us on this on this episode.
Thank you for joining us on this insane roller coaster. Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know why I lost my mind there for a second, but I just want to thank everybody for listening to us. And I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, and we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and enjoy our witty banter.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate you. And I just want to say that
we have one more episode till the end of the season. So the next episode is our season closer.
What is it? Dragon Ball Evolution?
Yeah.
So hopefully that's not too bad. We'll see. We'll see how that turns out. But I just want to thank you guys because we're kind of getting close to the end of the season. I just want to thank you guys so much for joining me in this Popmosis journey, and I want to thank the audience for sticking with us and listening to us, and just want to thank you for taking the time and sharing our witty conversations and enduring me losing my mind. Yeah, witty banter.
So we have
So
a
thank you,
story arc
guys.
as a podcast where we start out as jerks, and then we get really depressed, and then we become cool at the end. That's the story of the first season of this
Exactly. See?
podcast.
Yeah.
We're at acceptance. We're at acceptance, and the snow is falling in the grapevine right now. So there you go. All right. Take us out, Tyler.
Well, first off, Josiah, where can they find more?
You can find
Josiah's
me
Right?
at Josiah is right, WRITE, as in writer, as in writing. So find me on YouTube, mostly a lot of stuff there. I got a bunch of new stuff I'm working on right now. So as this episode comes out, hopefully I'll have one on the Marvel Captain America feature film from 1990, the direct-to-video film, and it wasn't supposed to be direct-to-video. And find me on Instagram as well. Josiah is right, WRITE.
And Paul, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram as Arcade Blackfire with a Y.
Oh, and before I forget, subscribe to YouTube, us at Here the Grand Geek Gathering, and subscribe to me at Josiah is Right, and you could win a T-shirt of either The Gathering, Popmosis, or Josiah is Right. So be sure to be subscribed to my channel and this one here on YouTube. So if you're on some other podcast platform, be sure to hop over YouTube and hit those subscribe buttons, and you're going to be entered to win some T-shirts. And we'll be giving out our first after the season, and we'll continue to do the promotion throughout, but we'll give out our first after the first season wraps up.
And thank you for listening. And you can check out all of our shows and offerings on thegrandgeekgathering.com, where we have other podcasts, videos, and articles, and so much more. I also stream on Twitch twice a week. And you can join our Discord. If you want to get invited to our Discord, just let us know. We'll send a link. We'll DM it to you, whatever you want. Email us, all the stuff. Also, our music has been provided by Carlisle Laurent. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We will see you next episode as our final episode of this season. Season 1 is almost in the can, you guys. And happy Groundhog Day. Don't get stuck in a
Happy
loop.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, don't get stuck in a loop. Especially not 2020/2021.
Yeah, but we're closer to Steven Tobolowsky, so I think we'll be fine. He's like the master of it out here. So
Yes, go to IKEA and he'll help you out.
Just one more thing I want to point out. Thank you, Harold Ramis, for all the amazing works like Groundhog Day and Ghostbusters and everything you've done.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you, Harold Ramis. Rest in peace.
yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace, Harold Ramis. And have a wonderful week. Wear a mask and GGG.
What's on the silver screen? Makes you wouldn't believe.
I got you, babe.
No! No!